has to be the best current race going in the National Hockey League. The top 6 teams in the chase for the President's Trophy, separated by just 5 points. Florida, 2 points up on Boston, 3 points up on Vancouver for tops in the NHL. Of all of these top 6 teams, the Jets have the most games left with 22. That leads us to our very popular Todd's Odds segment, brought to you by FanDuel. Here's Todd Fuhrman, our sports betting expert. Todd, it's great to see you. Your hair looks wonderful. You're growing it out, I see.
You know, I got a little bit of lettuce, Jay. Super Bowl, some post-Super Bowl vacation. A lot of things got in the way of my grooming. So when we return to do this segment the next time around, I will be cleaned up and ready for a full-on postseason push.
I think you should let those sideburns grow. I wanted to mention this President's Trophy race again, Todd, because the odds coming in are fascinating. It's a race that I'm really enjoying. 6 teams, all separated by 5 points, as we mentioned. Is there a team you particularly like here?
Well, you mentioned this being fascinating. I also think the Hart conversation is going to be great over the final 20 games as well, with 4 players vying for that individual award. You look at the numbers here, and we saw Florida go into Madison Square Garden earlier tonight and get a big win against the Rangers. It's only the 3rd time the Rangers were a home underdog so far this season, and you can understand why they are essentially the favorite in this market. But I think I want to go a little bit further down the board and identify some value. One team that stands out to me, Jay, is the Dallas Stars. You mentioned the fact that Winnipeg has 3 games in hand, but Dallas's strength of schedule, much more favorable down the stretch. I think they have an excellent chance to win the division. And if they play real well, Chris Tanev gels on that blue line, the Stars can be in the conversation. If you believe in a little bit of a dart throw, look, Edmonton's got a couple of games in hand as well. We know this Oilers team is, 31-8-1 over their last 40 games. And while it's tough to sustain that, I would not rule out the Oilers continuing to play great hockey, as they went through a lull and still weren't saddled with that many losses coming out of the All-Star break.
Todd, you talked about how much you like this Hart Trophy race, and I say how much I like the President's Trophy race. But the actual race for the postseason, there's a real gap between the guys who are in and the guys who aren't. But of the teams that are not currently in the postseason, is there one that you think could actually make a push before this is all over?
You know, Jay, I would normally love to make a case for one of the underdogs. When you look at the back half of the Western Conference and you thought a team like the Minnesota Wild was putting it together, that maybe they can do some things. If Calgary hadn't dealt Elias Lindholm and didn't trade Chris Tanev, we're not sure what that roster is going to look like. So you could normally try and say an 8 seed can go out there and spring an upset. I just don't see a team in the back half of the Pacific or the Western Conference in general. And when I look at the East, it really feels like a separation of haves and have-nots, with the Florida Panthers a cut above everybody else, the Bruins and Leafs vying, for that second tier along with the Rangers and Hurricanes. So I think we're going to talk about chalk. But one team who is just a fringe playoff contender right now that I think is trending the right way is a team that we talked about early in the year in the LA Kings. And you look at their price right now at 9-1 to win the Western Conference. I know they're dealing with a rash of injuries. We're not sure when Adrian Kempe will return to the lineup, if they'll see Victor Arvidsson again, Mikey Anderson. But they're starting to show a little bit of that grit and tenacity. If they're able to get goaltending, I don't think anybody in the West is going to want to see the Kings in the postseason.
Trade deadline is Friday. We've got Trade Center right here on TSN. There's something that FanDuel had that caught our eye, Todd. Leafs over-under to make moves on deadline day. It is set at 1.5 trades. 1.5 trades. Plus 130 for the over. Minus 160 for the under. Which side are you taking?
These are fun bets to try and make, Jay, and it's always important to kind of read the fine print the sports books will put in there. If we were talking about deals being made up to deadline day, then I could make a slight case for over 1.5 having a little bit of value and upside at plus 130. But knowing all these deals would have to be consummated on Friday, I'm more than happy to lay $1.60 and go under. I think we saw with the previous regime with Kyle Dubas, when he tried to remake that Leafs roster, it didn't quite pay dividends for a deep postseason run last year. I get the feeling that Brad Treliving may want to add a piece or two. I just don't know if all of those deals will come down on Friday. I think under makes some sense for a Leafs team that had been playing really well, a minor roadblock earlier this evening with a 4-1 loss to the Bruins, who apparently are their nemesis with 6 straight losses to their Atlantic Division rival.
Todd, as always, your NHL knowledge is absolutely dazzling. I'm going to take the next week off because I clearly need the rest. but I'm going to return the following week. And when we get back, we'll get ready for the opening of March Madness, and we're looking forward to that brand new haircut on you, buddy.
Hey, look, Jay, I have to bring my A game. I've let myself get a little bit sloppy right now. It's just like the bags under your eyes that suggest a vacation is long overdue. So we'll both bring our A game when we return to this very fine segment in a few short weeks.